There's good news and bad news. The bad news first. The bad news is that every single person watching this video will be impacted by domestic violence. Everyone.
There is no factor that will protect you, and there is no factor that condemns you.
Abuse happens to people who grew up in violent homes and also to people who didn't.
This can happen to you regardless of your age, race, gender.
In urban environments and in rural environments. In the homes of politicians, mechanics, social workers,
and even police officers.
Think about it. If it's not you directly, then it could be your sister, your coworker.
Someone you knew in college, maybe even your gay cousin or the person in the booth next to you at a restaurant.
Domestic violence is more prevalent than breast cancer,
identity theft, or chickenpox.
I know what you think. I thought it too. I would just walk the minute he hit me.
I would never get in that situation in the first place.
I'd just take the kids and leave.
Except, unless you have experienced it, it is nearly impossible to understand or imagine the power and control that batterers have over the people they target.
It is impossible to understand the depth of isolation and fear.
Batterers are not rational or safe.
When you are told over and over exactly the thing you want to hear.
I'm sorry, and it won't happen again. It's all a lie.
If they tell you that they will kill you if you try and leave, if they tell you that they will kill your children if you try to leave, that is not always a lie.
Now for the good news.
Survivors of domestic violence keep themselves alive every day, and they are not alone.
One of the things that we tried to do when we designed our program was look at gaps that we saw in the community as far as the services that were being offered. And we also did a whole lot of listening to survivors.
Hundreds of moments when I knew I needed to reach out and wanted to reach out. Lots of moments where I didn't know where to reach out to, though. Because I had been dealing with DHS, and they were pretty fed up with me. The police were fed up with me. And when I went to Home Free for their help, they weren't fed up, and they didn't judge me. I couldn't have done it without VOA. I couldn't have.
For 77 years, we provided shelter. And yet we noticed that year after year, the maximum number of survivors and children that we had contact with was about 150. We decided to try to find ways to reach more survivors. And now, in all our services combined, we have face-to-face, in-person contact with over 5,000 survivors every year.
I didn't think that domestic violence was a cycle. I just thought it was normal life. This is what you get into, you marry. This is what married life is about. And that was my first marriage, and I thought, well, he loves me. This is part of being married, you know, part of being a wife. And then when Home Free got involved and told me this is not, you know, the way you're supposed to live. These are signs of domestic violence and red flags. Then I started thinking about it, and when I'd go to bed and think about it, I was like, oh my God, this isn't normal, and I need to get away from it and get out of it.
Our advocates are out in their cars with their cell phones, meeting survivors in places like the courthouse, a grocery store, a coffee shop.
I was working in the restraining order room one day, and a Spanish-speaking only woman came in and needed help with her paperwork. The batterer knew that she was going there that day to get the order against him, so he came the same day, was in the same room filling out paperwork to get an order against her. It's good that I was there because she was able to safely stay, get her paperwork done. I was also able to provide emotional support for her because it was really upsetting to her. So she was able to get her order. If I hadn't been there, she probably would just have to leave, go home. He would end up with an order against her and have a leg up against her with the system.
Making institutional change becomes part of what we need to focus on. Whether it's the police bureau, whether it's a child welfare office, whether it's the jail, if our advocates are there, we're also able to make change within the systems that we're outreaching to.
Recently, I worked with a mom who was at a high risk of homicide from her partner. There was a lot of concerns that her relationship with him would result in a homicide. It was really difficult and challenging to provide her services because he wouldn't give her a moment alone. We ended up teaming up with the domestic violence unit at the police department, probation and parole, child welfare, and myself and another advocate in helping her resolve those safety issues. He's incarcerated, he's in prison for 2 years. Now she's able to work on healing. One of the things that she mentioned to me recently was that she would not have been alive had it not been for Home Free Services. And I believe her.
9 out of 10 of the survivor households who are served in our Housing First program are still safe and stably housed a year after exiting our services.
There was one particular woman that we worked with in our motel voucher program. She had been on the run for a year. She'd been going from shelter to shelter. Her abuser kept on finding her. When we met with her, she expressed some concern about her children. She was feeling really guilty about dragging them around from shelter to shelter to shelter. And she was ready to give them up for adoption so that they could have a place to be. So we talked with her and eventually got her connected with one of our advocates in our transitional services programs, setting up a new home for her and her children. And she cried and told us that we had given her back her hope.
Sentido yo más estable.
I feel more stable emotionally. I'm in a better state. And my children are also.
Y mis hijos igual.
There was a quiet 7-year-old little boy who came to our kids support groups who talked a lot about a particularly scary incident where the abuser had been shouting and shoving, and he'd knocked furniture over and thrown the child into the couch. When the family tried to call for help, he'd smashed the phone. And this was obviously a scary memory for this little boy, and he talked about it a lot. And at the end of group, he handed us a note that he'd written on a piece of folded up paper. And when we opened it up and read it, it said, "Thanks, now I know I'm safe." Those are the moments that really make you feel that you're doing something worthwhile.
The reality is, today we cannot tell you when domestic violence will end. But with your support, we can reduce it, we can make families safer, we can diminish its impacts.
Participants of Home Free tell us we are on the right track. Next time, we want even more good news.
I never knew that there were people out there to listen to me and help. So thank you so much.
Kids at Home Free learn it's okay to be themselves.
It made me feel better to work with an advocate. She didn't tell me what to do, but helped me understand the process.
Home Free teaches kids how to talk about their feelings.
Having a place to sleep, being treated with respect, and not looked down on made me feel human again.
I realize now that it's not my fault and that I'm a good person. I'm not just a statistic. I'm a person.
Home Free saved my life. There is no other way to put it. My caseworker treated me with the dignity and respect that no one else in my life was capable of at that time.
Home Free teaches little kids how to be safe.
Thank you, Home Free. Because of you, I graduated, and now I'm a teacher. I couldn't have done it without the help and support from Home Free. My children and I are so grateful.
¿Hay ayuda?
There is help. Yes, you can leave the difficult situation.
We have a bigger apartment now. The kids are so much happier. They go to school all day. They don't have problems in school like they used to.
Our name really indicates that we don't want survivors just to be safe. We want them to really have freedom in their lives.
I have an amazing life now. I'm going to college full time. I'm getting straight A's. My son's doing really good. He just started middle school. He's proud of himself. He's proud of me, and I'm proud of myself too.